Do you keep experiencing the same problems over and over again? Hi, I'm Craig Hopper, and in this video, I'm going to teach you how to identify and deal with problems to avoid them repeating themselves over and over again. A lot of us, when we see something go wrong, we think, if I can just get through this one issue, if I can just get past this, everything's going to be okay. But you know what? If you don't deal with the underlying cause, if you don't actually solve something, it's just going to repeat itself again and again. Psychologists have a fancy name for avoiding evidence. It's called confirmation bias, and they came up with it in the 1960s. And what that says is that people are far more likely to pay attention to evidence that supports what they already believe. The same thing goes here for problem situations. We think, we hope it's not as bad as it might be. We avoid the awkward evidence that's telling us we've got a problem. Unfortunately, we avoid it until it gets bigger and bigger and is then too big for us to avoid. Have you ever heard of the metaphor of the feather, the brick, and the truck? I hadn't heard this until recently, but I love it. And it applies to all sorts of situations in life. So an obvious one is physical injuries. You go for a run, you get a little twinge in your leg. You think, she'll be right. Bit of ice, it'll be fine. Rest. A couple of weeks later, you come back and it's this time when you cool down, it's sore. It's sore. Really should see a physio, but I don't have time for that. It's a hassle. And you avoid it. You keep going, and eventually, twang, something has gone. Now you've got a serious injury. We're talking a couple of months off, rehab, physio, all sorts of stuff. So the first warning, the twinge, that was your feather. If you ignore that, you get a brick. Harder to avoid, but if you still avoid it, the next one that comes is our truck, and that just knocks you sideways. Another situation that I think of is applying this in the work situation. We, particularly as a leader, we see stuff all the time. Like a member in your team might do something that's just a little off, doesn't quite gel with the team's values or the company values. You really need to have a chat with them about that. The right thing to do would be to grab them at the end of that meeting, take them aside and have a quick chat. But you're busy, they're busy, you're back to back, you race off to the next thing. Before you know it, it's the end of the day, they've left, you haven't had that chat with them. Well, they're a good person. Look, I'm sure this was no big deal. If I see it again, I'll deal with it. That was your feather. Then you hear about something they've done and it's upset somebody else, and now it's a bit of a problem. You really do need to deal with it. But now it's not as simple. There are a few more people involved. You need to chat to a few people. This is going to take a bit more time, a lot more time for you to do this. One of them's away, so it'll have to wait a week or two. This is starting to get awkward. That was the brick. If you don't deal with that one, then you get the truck. So you might be recruiting for a role in your team, and you've got this one person that you really want to join your team, but they turn you down. And the reason they give, cultural fit or team values. They thought the role looked great, but they're not sure they want to join the team. Now you've got an even bigger issue. You've got a behavioural problem, you've got people that are being impacted, and now the whole team, the work that you do is impacted. This is 3 things that have to be dealt with now, and each of them is far more complicated than had they been dealt with the first time. So it's super important to solve problems when they first appear. Toyota's famous quality management system recognizes this. They empower anybody to stop the production line if they see a problem, see something that's wrong. They stop the production line, they fix it then and there before it goes on. In software development, there's a rule of thumb that says any problem becomes 10 times more expensive to resolve if you let it go through to the next phase. So design, development, test, or actually being live. Every time you you miss a problem or you let it go through, it's 10 times harder and 10 times more expensive to fix. Whether it's 10 times with these other things, it doesn't really matter. The point is, it's going to be a lot harder and a lot more painful, not just for you, but for everybody, when you don't deal with things, these awkward conversations, this tough stuff. You got to be brave. You got to face into these things. These are the things that you will regret not doing. It's not that hard, unfortunately, to avoid them in the moment. That's the feather. But it comes back as a brick. And if you avoid that one, it comes back as a truck. And we don't want that. So look out for those feathers. Pay attention to them. Take the time in the moment to deal with those feathers. Avoid those bricks. And most importantly, avoid those trucks. And then you won't regret it. Thank you so much for all the likes, the comments, and the shares. I really appreciate this. I am passionate about helping people grow, develop, learn to be brave, to live that life of meaning and fulfillment, free from worries about all this other stuff that doesn't matter. To help people, I've developed a free Bravery Beginnings starter course. Jump on my website, craighopper.com.au/start. The URL's here. As always, thank you, stay safe, be brave.